You're about to hear a mum talk about her 2 sons and 2 daughters. There's nothing unusual in what she's saying. The love she has for her babies is obvious. What makes these recordings different is that the mother is Kathleen Folbigg, who's in prison for killing her children. Kathleen has always denied the crimes, and advances in science since she was found guilty tend to support her claims. But the courts have remained steadfast, maintaining her guilt is proven by what she wrote in her diaries. Now, though, Kathleen's own voice in these never-before-heard tapes gives new insight into this tragic case. For the past 18 years, as she serves a 25-year jail term for killing her 4 children, people have raged for and against Kathleen Folbigg, debating her guilt and dissecting the very meaning of her personal diaries. Tonight, she speaks for herself.
Do you have fond memories of the kids?
I do. Each one of them was just a little bit different in each their own way.
Between June and August this year, psychotherapist Dr. Kamal Toomer met with Kathleen multiple times over an audio-visual link.
I believe that she is innocent.
As you'll hear, Kathleen reveals to Dr. Toomer more than ever before about herself and the children she's been convicted of smothering.
Caleb might have only been 19 days old, but he just came across as a little old soul. He was so serious when he stared at you. He was just sort of had such these intense eyes. It was just sort of like, my gosh, I think he's reading my brain.
Along with her firstborn Caleb, there was Patrick.
Even with all of his medical issues and all of his problems with his epilepsy and his blindness, I sort of thought, he's going to be a risk taker, I can just see it.
Their sister Sarah.
I actually thought Sarah was probably a bit too much like me out of the 4 because she was just cheeky and she took such fun and joy in, didn't matter what she was doing, it was fun.
And longest surviving child, 18-month-old Laura.
Well, Laura was different again. She was quite a empathetic and compassionate little kid and just wanting to help in some fashion.
A mother's most treasured memories shared from prison.
I remember he had such long fingers. I just sort of thought, piano player. You instantly think of playing pianos or something because they've got these really long fingers.
You know, it's important when we listen to that to listen to the musicality of it. It tells you how her real experience was in the moment with her children.
She brings her children to life here.
But she is also alive. Yes, she is also alive.
I think I started writing in a journal about 8, so I think I was given my very...
Dr. Toomer spoke with Kathleen 6 times after assessing her now infamous diaries and believes his non-combative approach helped disarm the real Kathleen, who is considered by many to be a cold-blooded killer. She certainly seemed to respond very warmly to you.
Who wouldn't?
I don't know, but your manner with her and your approach revealed something about Kathleen that we've not heard before.
Yes. I don't go sort of and drill her about what do you mean by this and what do you mean by that. I think that's an experience, probably she hasn't had before.
In the past, selected diary entries like she left with a bit of help, have been relied on by police and the courts as a virtual confession. When Kathleen explained she meant her daughter died with help from God, fate, or something else, not me, she was told at a judicial inquiry she was lying.
Give me a break. You finally got me here for you. I'm telling you now what these things mean, and you're now telling me that I'm lying about it. And I'm sort of like, I've got nothing to be lying about. I've got nothing to lose anymore. I lost it already.
Back in 2003, the prosecutor told the jury that Kathleen Folbigg's diaries were the best evidence yet that she had killed her children. What is your view of characterising the diaries in that way?
They used them as weapons. They just cherry-picked bits and pieces from it that confirmed their suspicions, and they used those to condemn her.
Like Dr. Kamal Toomer, psychiatrist Dr. Janine Stevenson was asked by Kathleen Folbigg's legal team to take a close look at all entries in the diaries. To her surprise, Kathleen's diaries mirrored those of a group of patients she'd studied 20 years earlier, who'd all confided in their diaries after suffering immense trauma.
A lot of them had lost a parent early in life. A lot of them had been fostered, and they made very similar remarks in their diary to Kathleen. It was a very private thing. It was a thing that they used to comfort themselves, like a blanket is to a young child when the mother's not around. It's a substitute for that. Kathleen herself said, "They're my words. I know what they mean. You don't know what they mean. They're private for me. So shouldn't be used for interpretation by other people."
When you're investigating the deaths of 4 babies, does she lose the right to privacy around her diaries? Do they need to be examined and studied and interpreted?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing to say, but I think that they need to be analysed and interpreted in context. The whole of it and her explanation of it should be used.
Like Dr. Stevenson's other patients, Kathleen's early start in life was harrowing. At 18 months, she witnessed her father murder her mother. Having effectively lost both her parents, Kathleen was then placed in the care of an emotionally remote foster mother. Dr. Stevenson believes the impact of Kathleen's loss is still doing damage to her today.
I think she's got a complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I think she dissociates. She describes that herself, that when things get too much, she just shuts off. And she also described if she ever showed any emotion as a child, she was told to stop because her mother couldn't cope with it. So she learnt not to show her emotions.
Dr. Kamal Toomer also believes Kathleen's dissociation, her deadened appearance at her first trial, and her apparent lack of emotion was deeply misunderstood.
I was still, even whilst the trial was on, I think just not accept. I don't know if it's not accept what was happening. I don't think I was fully there when it came to what was going on, really.
She just sounded like a woman in a daze, an absolute daze.
Completely dissociated. And then it's simple to make the conclusion that she must be guilty. She is so uninterested. But the poor woman was completely disconnected.
But not because she murdered her children.
No. Disconnected because the whole experience is overwhelming for her.
Whenever anyone was talking about their children and then asked me what mine were like, I used to just not want to share any of it because I felt like, no, they're gone, that information is all mine.
In your opinion, is there any way that Kathleen Folbigg was so traumatised as a child, so damaged, that she is capable of killing her children?
No, it's not what I felt, it's not what I believe, it's not what I observed.
You have real hope that your insights into Kathleen's case and who she is could lead to her release.
But I hope so. I sincerely hope so.
Dr. Toomer is convinced Kathleen's shutdown mechanism was developed in the trauma of her early childhood. He also believes, thanks to her upbringing, Kathleen suffers a psychological state known as negative attributes of self, an overwhelming self-loathing where, despite evidence to the contrary, she believes everything she does is bad or negative, as he witnessed in her diary writing.
When I start reading it, it oozes trauma. You can see the trauma. This notion of a person with what we call negative attributes of self, right? Where one believes that I am not a good person, that I am ugly, or that I am unintelligent, or that I am a bad mother.
And so then that presents in someone like Kathleen as an unshakable belief?
This is one of the most difficult things to treat in therapy.
It's this skewed perception of herself that Kathleen divulged in her diaries. A confounding view that because she was so bad, so neglectful, so unworthy, her children chose to leave her. And in that way, she was responsible for their deaths.
My view is very simple. She's not a murderer and she's not a bad mother. Although that's what the impression was created.
In fact, don't you say in your report that you found evidence of her being a good mother?
But it's all over the place that she is a good mother. In my report, in my sessions with her.
I used my journals and my diaries to write down if I thought there was a problem of some sort, how was I going to fix it? What was the issue? Was the issue me? How do I figure this out? That's what my journals were for.
Do you see any of her writings as near confessions or virtual confessions?
No, everything she wrote was very passive. She didn't say anything like, I did this.
If she did do something active against her children, do you think she would have written that down?
Yes, I do, actually. I do, because she was condemning herself all the time. And if she'd done something like that, she would have condemned herself even more, I think.
Dr. Stevenson and Dr. Toomer have submitted their assessment of the diaries to the Attorney-General as part of a petition seeking Kathleen's immediate release from jail. It's a plea that was signed earlier this year by more than 100 eminent scientists after advances in genetics cast doubt on Kathleen's conviction. How do you feel about her being in jail?
That's why I'm here today. Because I don't feel right. We need to look at it with different eyes. And I hope this will happen. Because this woman deserves that.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.